Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Addicts. Get ready to explore the past, present, and future of MMA with your hosts, Seth Oliver and Ben Korn.
What's happening, guys? Welcome to episode number 23 of the Fight Addicts. This episode was recorded on August the 27th, 2019. So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Our Eric Anders podcast that we did just broke our record for the highest number of plays of a guest interview that we've done, and that was just after 5 days of being published. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that. We appreciate all the new support that we've been getting here in the past couple of weeks. So in this episode, we preview UFC on ESPN Plus 15. It's a very interesting card. It's a card that's not getting a lot of hype and enthusiasm around, so we obviously address that. But like we do with every single card, we pick our lock, underdog, co-main, and main event that we have for the card. Also, which this kind of came to my surprise because I thought we were just going to pop out a little like 20-minute preview. We end up going 50 minutes in this episode, and we discuss the impact of Maymac on Conor McGregor and like the root cause behind his recent actions. So we talk a little bit about that. And then we also talk a lot about why there should not be a 165-pound division. Yeah, you heard that right. We said why there should not be a 165-pound division. Those were just a lot of the key highlights from it. There's a lot more discussion in there, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. As always, Ben and I had a great time recording the episode, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. Here is episode number 23 of The Fight Addicts. Ben, what's happening, brother? How's everything going tonight?
Everything's good, my friend. We got some weird fights coming up.
We do. Aren't you just so pumped for this card?
No, but I do feel like that this card is a perfect representation of two things. Number one, the UFC does not have to appeal solely to an American audience.
Okay.
Because if they felt that way, they wouldn't have produced this card.
I agree with you on that.
Secondly, it shows you that there are too many cards.
Okay.
And it presents the possible worst case scenario for the UFC, where there's a girl who has a belt that absolutely no one knows who she is and isn't going to try and take the time to learn her.
Right. So me and you have talked about this a little bit before because you've said that the UFC puts on too many cards and we didn't see totally eye to eye on it. So in the ideal situation for you, how many cards per month would the UFC put out? Because most of the time they do every single week, and then you periodically get breaks like we did this month. How we didn't have a card last week, so it was three weeks out of the month.
In a perfect world, if you tell me, all right, Ben, fix the way it's being done, here's what you do. Every month you have a regional card for a different part of the world. So every month you'll get a card that's coming from somewhere in like Eastern Europe. And every month you'll get an Asia card. And every month you'll get an actual pay-per-view that's pretty much a North American. I mean, it's pretty much a North American card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like there can be a card that's also a North American undercard. Like there's Dana White's Contender Series. Or even that is wrong because you're bringing in people from all over the world to do that. But if you just pick up like CSE and say that all of the like farm league teams of MMA, all the people that are beneath the UFC, they're going to fight in CES until they get the call up. And if you need somebody in short notice, you got these guys who are in shape. They also fight. It's all on Fight Pass. You can call it Fight Night, whatever. But 4 different cards can come out, but nobody ever feels gypped and says, what's going on? Why is this headlining? I don't know who any of these people are. That you can fix that by being like, you're right. You don't know who any of these people are, but eventually you will. And if you're a diehard, you'll watch this stuff, you know?
Okay.
But it also gives you an out whenever you can't fill a card with good fighters. You'd be like, well, this is how we, do prospects. And you're never required to be like, why is this a main event? Like, you're never required to give people main events.
I gotcha.
So you don't have to give him a belt fight. You can be like, hey, the capoeira guy versus who he's fighting.
Yeah, Li Jingliang.
Yeah, yes, exactly. One of those two dudes
Yeah.
is going to fight on the next, like, basically it's like a prelims for a pay-per-view spot. Whoever wins that fight gets to go to a real card.
Right.
You know?
They
And
can
on that
headline the
real
prelims.
card,
Yeah.
on that real card, the girl who's challenging for the belt will have already won something in her regional, like she's 19-0 because she tore up the Asia circuit, and now here she is. Maybe she won a prelim fight to get the title shot. She beat Tisha Torres, so here she is. But all of her stuff, you could have watched her. You could have film on her from her styling on people for a few fights in the Asia circuit, and then you would have more people who are more associated with her than the way they're doing it now, I feel like.
I gotcha. Okay, I like that perspective. Because I guess my argument was just that, like, I feel like that there's so much talent, or not so much talent, but there's so many fighters now that are wanting to showcase their talent that I feel like we have enough for a card a week, pretty much. Because even though you will have situations like this, where it's like, yeah, I only know, a couple of the fighters have, like, somewhat recognizable names, it's still, with the talent pool that there is and the amount of fighters that there are now, I just feel like it's a good way to kind of build them up. Even though I can see where it's a problem, like what you're saying, but I feel like we're at the point where there's so many that it's okay to have this many cards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. But if you said, look at how many college basketball players there are, and then look at how many NBA teams we have. We need more teams. They need to play more games. It's like, no, man, they need to contract the NBA.
Yeah,
there are teams that are going to win. They need to contract the season, but I'm saying there are teams that will not be competitive every year.
Yeah,
there are
the
teams
Phoenix Suns, Charlotte Hornets, all those.
Right. But these teams that they're not going to win. So why are there this many teams to where you're always going to have a dozen teams that are they're a sub 500 basketball team. They have no effort to make up the playoffs even. And it's like, who does that benefit? If you took the best player off of each one of those teams, off of 4 teams, and then traded them to a relevant team to make it better, you get better basketball. But instead you have this diluted mess. And if you made more teams, if you were like, hey, there's so many players, let's just keep making teams. If you make teams, it dilutes it further to where everybody's only got one player. You never have those super teams.
So it gets saturated pretty much.
Yeah. To where it becomes garbage.
Gotcha.
It's like whenever you say, hey, it's like if you wanted me to legitimately say, well, Invicta, let's compare the MMA in Invicta to the MMA in the UFC or Bellator. Well, the difference is they're all women in Invicta, and they have to fill a card with all women MMA. And if you do that, the undercard of that is going to be backward.
Yeah.
It's going to look like something from 15 years ago, or something that you might even see in the street,
right. Yeah.
Soccer moms getting beat up. That's what happens. One person knows what they're doing. One person doesn't.
Right.
Someone who shouldn't be in a cage is in a cage.
Yeah. It's just something there to fill the spot.
Yeah. And it's who does that benefit? That's not good. It should be it should be contracted. I mean, I understand why Invicta's there because Invicta says we're a feeder league. Our champion will eventually go to the UFC. They're not this person is signed with Invicta. They're staying. It's no, the UFC owns Invicta. And whenever they need someone, they're going to take them. And that's great.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. And that would work better. They got it right with the women.
I gotcha. All right. We'll go ahead and move it on to the card. So this is UFC on ESPN Plus 15. This event marks the UFC's first visit to Shenzhen, China. And the prelims start at 3 a.m. That's Eastern time, and the main card starts at 6 a.m. Ben, are you going to be staying up watching these Sunday morning?
I will not. If it had been not on a Sunday, my one day off, I could have just gotten up early and watched the prelims because I get up at 4:40 every normal day.
Yeah.
In the morning, so like I could get up an hour and 40 minutes early and watch some Asia MMA. I'm not going to do that under any circumstances, but yeah.
Yeah, I tweeted a poll where it was just like, if I did a live stream on this on the Fight Addicts YouTube, would you guys stay up and watch it with me? For those of you that are wanting to watch it, but you don't really want to feel like alone while you're doing it. And it was like 20% said like, yeah, we'll watch it. And then the other 80% were like, no, like I'll be happily asleep during that. So I was like, yeah, that kind of shows the enthusiasm for this card.
I mean, what's there to be enthused about? Like,
there's
really,
nothing. Yeah.
As a 36-year-old, like if I wanted to get up early and watch that main event, because it could be the perfect storm, like worst case scenario, where that belt is in China. It's like, ugh, I don't even know what you do with that. If Wiley,
Weili Zhang,
winds up with the belt.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and looking at the betting lines for the card, and these are all according to Bovada, which is what we always use. So the biggest line for the event is Movsar Evloev is a negative 700 favorite versus Jinlong Liu, who's a plus 450 underdog. And then the closest line is just an even line between Dana Batgarel and Haley Alating. So it's just even at negative 130. So,
I listened to quick shout out to MMA Gambling Addicts, I think is what the name of it was. If I'm getting that wrong, I'm sorry. But I listened to like an hour of them talking about this. And my one insight is that the really close fight, you should vote for, or you should pick Batgrill.
Okay.
If I had an underdog, he's got wrestling.
Okay.
He's here's the thing. He's Mongolian though. So it's hard to say what his like training really looks like.
Yeah.
But from what they've seen on him, he can wrestle and he can take a punch. So, and the other guy's a kickboxer. This could be a stand and Wang where he should take him down and he doesn't. But yeah, I think that from what I heard from them, Batgrill put my money on him.
Yeah. All right. So every week, if you're new listening to this, Ben and I always pick a lock, underdog, the winner of the co-main and main event for each upcoming card. We feel like it's a good way to kind of break down the preview, the way we're not boring you guys talking about every single fight, but also just kind of getting a little bit of everything in there. So Ben,
also, we're going to do this fast because as an MMA fan and having listened to like an hour and a half of talk on this, like unlike most of the time whenever I hear people break down fights, I'm less enthused to watch this now. Like I'm like, ugh, this is just a chore. Yeah. Anyway,
right.
What was the question? Sorry.
No, I was just explaining how we do things for the preview card or for the preview episode. So, getting into our lock, the first thing that we always do. My lock for this card is Elizu Capoeira dos Santos. I was very impressed with him in his last fight. I don't know too much about his opponent. I believe it's Li Jingliang. But I know that Dos Santos is a negative 300 favorite. So, knowing that with the betting line and how I saw him in his last performance, he is my lock for this week.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I don't. The one thing I can tell you is Andrade shouldn't be the lock. It should be someone else other than her, because there's just too much of a variable with this girl. She's won her last 19 fights for a reason. She beat Teacher Torres for a reason. She's not somebody to sleep on. I assume she's going to lose, but as far as picking like a lock, man, I don't know. I'm tempted to go with Batgrill, just because.
Go for it.
yeah, pick Batgrill as my lock because I feel like he's going to get it done. Just listening to those guys break that down, I feel like he's, it's grappler versus striker, baby. And I feel like the grappler wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the favorite in most fights that are stylistically like that. So, underdog picks. Mine is Mark De La Rosa. Just kind of picked it because it was sort of a familiar name to me. I saw that he was an underdog of Bovada. So, I just kind of picked him as my underdog for this week.
Yeah, again, I said that if I was allowed to pick back reel as an underdog, he's my underdog. Because it's even, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't feel comfortable.
Does that count?
Yeah, I think it does. Because, like, if I told you somebody else was going to win that's an underdog, it would be completely just me looking at a name on a piece of paper.
That's what I did pretty
being
much.
Like, I think they're going to win. And I'm like, yeah, no. Like, in listening to them break that down, I kind of feel like you're wrong about your underdog pick.
Like I said, it was just sort of a recognizable name. I saw he was an underdog.
Yeah. Is he fighting Kai?
Kai Kara
Yeah,
France,
I kind of feel like he's going to lose. Yeah. I feel like Kai's going to get it done. But
maybe.
Yeah. Main event or co-main event. What are we doing?
We'll do co-main event because we'll work our way up to main event. Okay. Obviously, my lock, Eliza Capoeira dos Santos.
I think he's going to win. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like he should win, but I don't feel comfortable putting any type of like money or fake money on it.
Gotcha. So are you picking him though as your co-main event?
Yeah, I pick him. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then finally main event. I've kind of went back and forth with this one, which is what I usually say. I feel like for every main event, I think I'm going with Andrade just because of experience and a more rich talent pool, I guess, and like against better competition overall. Even though what I saw from Whaley has been pretty impressive, especially in the Tisha Torres fight. But to me, it's kind of a coin flip, and I'm just going to say Jessica Andrade gets it done. Probably, I'm going to say by decision if I had to pick something.
I think Andrade is going to knock her out, honestly.
Really? You think it'll be early on in the fight, or are we going to see this in the championship rounds?
No. It's going to be early.
So
she's going to let her feel
China.
that power.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think is the only real difference. Like, I think on a technical level, Wiley's maybe a better wrestler than her.
Yeah, she grappled well in the Tisha Torres fight.
Right, exactly. But I don't care who it is. Those slams on Rose showed me that, look, man, like,
she got some power.
Okay, so yeah, like 115-pound girl. She's cutting, obviously, like to have that kind of power.
Yeah.
She doesn't actually weigh 115 pounds when she gets in there. Although she is 5'1". So that's pretty short. You know?
And I think that Whaley's 5'4".
Yeah, she's got a lot of advantages on paper. I just think the one thing that she doesn't have an advantage on, she's running into serious power.
Yeah.
And I think the power alone is enough.
Yeah. And Andrade used to fight at 135 too. So it just kind of showed me like how big she is. Yeah, for that 115-pound division.
Yeah, because that's like her walk-around weight.
Yeah, so she was just kind of pulling a Frankie.
Yeah. Well, she was getting jabbed up. She was like 6-inch reach disadvantage against anyone. She's John Lineker. You know?
Yeah.
Like, she's Tyson Griffin in there.
Yeah.
So all right, T-Rexy.
So Artem Lobov, the GOAT.
They need to have like a three-way dance between like Tyson Griffin, Sean Shirk, and Artem Lobov. So good.
Yeah.
It's like a cat, like you ever seen like two cats, like where they're like slapping their paws? Like,
yeah.
Because they're so like, it's so tight. Like the motion is such a tight flurry with all those guys. Like they're always trying to catch someone coming in. They never can reach their opponent. It's always like, man, if they just were the same size as me, it'd be so good.
Right.
And then there was that Tyson Griffin Sean Shirk fight. That was amazing.
Who won that fight? Actually, because I remember that fight, but I couldn't remember.
Sean Shirk. Here's how you remember who beat Sean Shirk. Say, was that person ever a UFC champion? And then if you say no, then yeah, they didn't beat Sean Shark.
The Muscle Shark got it done.
Yep, even though he didn't. If you watch that Evan Dunham fight, that was how you knew Evan Dunham wasn't going to become champion.
Yeah.
Because he lost that fight, but he won on decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, too late for Evan.
Man, we're going to have to do another old school episode soon. We haven't talked about old school since episode 12, I think it was.
Yeah, man. We see, the problem was UFC 2 is so ultra insane that it's impossible, man. Like it.
So we're going to do like a 4-parter?
We're going to do it.
Is it going to take 4?
We're going to do it. But
all right. You guys heard it.
It's going to, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to listen to a podcast called The History of Rome, and it was a guy breaking down the history of the Roman Empire from start to finish. And at points, he would just kind of get frustrated because he's like, originally when I undertook this, I didn't fully comprehend the amount of like time and nonsense information that's in this, like that needs to be relayed to people. Like you feel like you can condense some things and then other things you can't. And with UFC 2, it's like there's so much to digest that needs to be digested to really understand it.
Yeah.
More than just watching ultra violence on a screen.
Yeah. Well, because that's probably like one of my favorite things about it is like the narrative in the background and what's going on with this guy and what's happening in this guy's life and why he's here and all that kind of stuff. So for those of you that are,
why
Chemo
Leopoldo is getting pulled over with a police officer's uniform and crystal meth in his car. Like, yeah. And he's like, it's just for an acting job that I have. And I'm like, please, for the love
That's
of
what he
God,
said.
allow there to be some movie where Chemo is dressed up as a cop. Please.
Yeah.
Just once. I just want it.
That's hilarious. But yeah, for anybody that, this is, probably not our greatest episode due to the card.
I think it is our greatest episode, honestly.
Yeah, but there's something for y'all to look forward to in the future that we really like to do. Talk about some of the old school stuff. All right, that closes out all of our picks and pretty much the preview of the card that we had for you guys. We're going to go and get into our listener questions for this week. The first one are Twitter questions, which we only had one. These were from our guys, Combat Sports 101, which you can follow on Twitter at Combat Sports 101. Ben, what do you think of those guys? Because I have seen nothing but love from them. They're probably my favorite Twitter account so far.
Yeah, man. I see a lot of like cry laugh emojis, and I'm like, good.
Yeah,
I think they like my sense of humor.
Yeah,
I'm like, good. Were they the ones that tweeted we're out of the Andrew Luck business in a reply?
Oh, I saw that somebody did, but I can't remember if it was.
I was like, oh, I missed that one. That was good.
That was good.
That was necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you guys haven't, please go check out Todd the Rhino and Jeff the Essence podcast. Honestly, they're one of the more like professional sounding podcasts in our tier. That's why I like listening to them. And they cover boxing as well as MMA. So give them a listen if you haven't. But they asked, would it make sense for the UFC to add a 165-pound division? If so, who are some of your top contenders for it? Now, Ben, I haven't really looked over these. I just kind of typed them into my laptop before we started this. So do you have anything off the top of your head? Or are you just going to put me on the spot?
No, they shouldn't do that.
They shouldn't do 165.
No.
Okay, you're definitely in the minority here. Why do you say that?
Because it needs to stay the way it is. It's sort of like it's the same way that there shouldn't be instant replay in baseball. It's the same, like it's the way that it is.
So
not
is it like
because
from a traditional standpoint?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Like 205 is completely arbitrary. 205 was the matchmaker being like, Tito, what do you think you can make? He's like 205, and they're like, yeah, okay. Or that's a complete lie that Tito Ortiz made up. Like, as I say it, I'm like, this sounds sort of like me saying that I have like a cracked skull and I just got done with the UFC fight. Like, well, I don't know about that.
I thought that you were saying it as a joke. Did Tito actually say that?
Oh, yeah, that's been stated.
Oh, man, I missed that then.
I'm going to send you a link. But anyway.
I'll tweet it out for you guys.
Yeah, man. No, I just don't think that there need to be more belts and more weight divisions created. Like, 15 pounds between 155 and 170. Like, dude, if you're good, you should be able to fight at 170 if you can't make 155 and do all right. And if you're like, I got to make 155 to be relevant, man, it sucks to be you, but get better.
Yeah. I would say...
Also, the answer to the question as far as who would be the best, I believe that technically KJ Noons is, because in the Elite XC it was like 164 pounds, and he took the belt off of Nick Diaz by cut stoppage, and then they never resolved that before he left. I don't think there was a 164 pound champ after KJ.
So he's the reigning champion of that?
Yeah, I mean, like lineally,
yeah,
I think
lineal.
GSP.
Okay.
Because it wasn't at 164 pounds, but like Nick won the rematch with KJ in Strikeforce.
I got
Like
you.
they fought again, but it was 170 pounds, and Nick tuned him up, broke his jaw, just boxed him up to prove a point.
Yeah.
And then the next time, hold on. The next time, then Nick loses to Carlos Condit. And then Carlos Condit loses to GSP, and then Nick loses to GSP.
So yeah, GSP took
and then
them both
GSP
out.
never loses. So
Yeah,
he has. So the answer to who is the best 165 pounder is GSP.
gotcha. So I heard an interesting take on this that has really made me think about it. So Dan Hardy went on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he was talking about instead of making it 165, what you could do is like meet in the middle of 70 and 55 and do 62 and a half. And then you would meet in the middle of 70 and 85 and do like 177 and a half, which he says he don't know how well that'll market because it's not in numbers of 5. And like the fans really like numbers in 5. Yeah, I mean, just kind of for the simplicity of it.
Does it equal anything in stone or like a different metric? Because like I feel like if you could just say like it's at 3 stone or whatever it is,
Yeah,
like it would still work somewhere. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it would be a bigger deal there.
right. I don't know. He didn't say. But I thought that was interesting because you can't just make 65 if you're not going to bump 70 up to 75.
You can't
And
bump
so-
70 up to 75.
Well, that's
You
what I
can't
was
do
just
that.
about to say.
Cannot
Because at
do
first I was like, well, yeah, you just bump, you do every 10, 55, 65, 75, 85, even throw in 195. But then I
What a
heard your
wasteland.
point about,
What a horrible
195.
wasteland.
Well, I guess it would probably be 205 then. That would
Just
become
be
the
Luke
wasteland.
Rockhold versus Rich Franklin into eternity.
Probably. But
And it'd just be Luke getting knocked out
over and
by
over
someone
again.
he shouldn't get knocked out by a left hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
Bisping just laughing into infinity.
So after you said that about how you can't move 70 for the like tradition's sake, I actually found myself agreeing with you on that because I think that
You
it is
should.
too. Yeah, it's too much.
Everything
It's just
that was
too
there,
much tradition for you to
everything
erase
that was there when Ultimate Fighter premiered has to stay. Like everything that happened before the Ultimate Fighter can go away. Nobody really cares about it except for me, and I'm watching like the ninja get beaten into a coma. Like
Yeah.
I'm watching just hate crimes being committed,
Right.
and like that's what early UFC was, man. But like it almost died, and then it resurrected, and when it did, you have to stick with what that was,
Yeah,
at least in a like some kind of functional way, because if you don't, it's gonna go downhill again, man.
yeah.
You wind up with X arm.
I guess what I'm saying is for the fighters, I definitely can see where it makes sense. For those that do, they're kind of in between the weight classes. And to me, some of the best ones would probably be like Kevin Lee or Colby Covington because he doesn't cut a ton of weight to make 70. So he could probably cut another 5 to make 65. Those are the two guys that just come to the top of my head. Or even
I feel
Cerrone.
like you're gonna get a bunch of
Cerrone
like,
would be a good one.
really sick things happening. Like somehow or another you get like Darren Till at 165.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Or
I was
like
just about to say.
you'd have these dudes that are like killing themselves to get to 170, and they're like, look, man, if I go vegan and only eat flaxseed for 20 days, I
Yeah.
can make 166.
Yeah.
naked and dehydrated.
Well,
And
that's what I was
then-
just about to say. It doesn't stop weight cutting. Like if you're thinking
gonna
that 65 is
encourage
going to be right,
It's going to encourage it.
all
if you
the
start saying
70ers.
all you got to do is make another 5 pounds, it's not 10. Yeah, man. Everybody at 170 goes down. Yeah, it's bad.
So, I guess Ben and I are both in the minority. We both just say to keep it the same way. Just keep it simple and keep the tradition the way that it is. All right, all the next questions are from Instagram. The first one is from the MMA Pursuit, one of my favorite Instagram pages, a guy that I've become good friends with. He has 2 questions for us. The first one is, what boxer would be able to transition well into the UFC? Ben, I'll let you take that one first.
Like currently?
We'll do throwback along with current,
I mean, like,
because he
it
didn't
depends
specify.
Obviously,
He probably meant current, but
it's going to be somebody who has like a lot of athleticism and can learn how to sprawl. You
gotcha.
know? I mean, like body type wise, I feel like I'm always partial to Tommy Hearns
Okay.
because like he's long, lean. I feel like I don't remember what he fought at, but low, and he's kind of like he's gonna wind up like fighting like Dominic Cruz or somebody, you know?
Yeah.
And like if you stayed, like I feel like he tunes everybody up on the feet, obviously, you know?
Yeah.
So like if he really were to fight somebody that would stand with him, he'd kill him.
Right.
And he's got a chin. That's important too, because when you start taking off the big gloves, it changes things.
Yeah.
You know, like the more I think about my happiest MMA moment was James Toney versus Randy Couture. Like if I'd been on Twitter for that,
Yeah.
it would have just been all over. We would be famous, or I might be in jail. I don't know, but like, yeah,
That's some extremes right there.
James Toney, or maybe both. James Toney, like he is one of the best defensive boxers of all time. No doubt about it. Nobody who watches boxing would tell you otherwise. He's one of the best defensive boxers of all time. But, like, obviously, when he fights Randy Couture, Couture's going to shoot on him for halfway across the cage, and it doesn't matter. None of it matters. You know?
Well, it's kind of like a
So,
Floyd
like,
fought in the UFC. It's like it doesn't matter how good of a defensive boxer he is. He's just going to get taken down immediately.
See, that is the only thing that made Floyd versus Conor interesting. Because when Floyd fights Conor in boxing, there's not a way for him to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this thing that you have no idea how to do and just do it to you like horribly. Like it would be as though they told you, hey, we're going to play a game. You play basketball, right? And you're like, yeah, but you've never played soccer. And it's people who have played basketball and soccer their whole life. And you're going to have to play soccer and like some kind of combination where you're doing both sports.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, we're only going to play soccer against them. We're only going to dribble with our feet because they don't know how to. Like, they're going to lose every time because they can only do half of this. Well, it's like, no, both of you can do 100% of boxing. It's just somebody's going to look really dumb. Someone's going to look really dumb one way or another. That's what made it interesting.
Yeah. And we just passed the 2-year anniversary of that because it was August the 26th, 2017. And I saw that they're getting ready to fight again in Japan. I saw some rumors circling. Yeah. You think that'll materialize, or is Mayback just a one-time thing?
Yeah.
I think so too.
I was surprised it materialized the first time.
Yeah. Seriously.
Like, I was very surprised. Like, once they started doing, like, the press conference tour, I knew it was going to happen. But...
yeah, because they're already getting that money in from it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think this is good for anybody, really. What's the end game here?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
that's that could be a whole podcast episode, because I think that ties a lot to how Conor is now. I think that was
ties a lot to how his bank account is now.
Yeah, and I think that's a leading factor in the state that he's at right now.
Do you? You think that 70 million or however much money he has like caused him to like that was a proponent of him punching a guy in a bar? Or do you think that Conor McGregor as a human being would have been like, hey, I just got off work, let me buy you a drink, and an old man's like, no thanks, and he's like, I'm the Gorilla King, and punches him, even if he had lost, you know?
What I'm meaning is that I feel like all of Conor's focus and attention before Maymac, well, it was about, because he had the 2 titles in cage fighters. So the whole deal was for him to come, the whole deal was to come to the UFC and get the 2 titles. And so after he did that, the only thing that he could like really peak after that would be the Maymac fight. So I feel like once he did
or
that,
a title defense, that would be a peak.
But see, I feel like not in his mind. You know what I mean? Because it's like the fact that he was the first simultaneous 2-weight, like the champ. Like that's the peak.
Yeah, but
you don't even have to defend the title because that's what goes down in the history books. As a hardcore fan, title defense.
You're not wrong. I'm not trying to say, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything that he won those belts. It means a lot that he won those belts, but it means something that he was like, I think I'm going to go fight Floyd Mayweather in boxing. Because I think I got somebody who might maul me. Because I really haven't fought anybody like that. And like, if Eddie Alvarez is standing there, heck yeah. Get ready to enter the Matrix, but like,
right. I think that it all worked out perfectly, and that Maymac was just the peak. So I feel like you can't really get much better than that. I mean, like, yes, a title defense would have been, but like in the history books, he'll always be like the first ever like 2-weight champion. And unless you're like a hardcore fan, you're not just going to be like, well, I mean, did he defend either of those titles, you know, and like go down it? Because just to a casual, it's like, oh yeah, like the champ. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the much wider fan base, that's all that really matters, was that picture of him holding both the belts. That's how my mind kind of thinks of it. So I feel like Maymac was the peak of all that. And so then you just kind of get this weird, I don't even know how to describe his mental state right now. It seems like he's very unhappy. I don't know. He's just at a confusing place, I feel like, in his life.
Yeah, man, when you get to the top of the mountain and you realize that all is vanity, you're in trouble without some kind of base. Like, yeah, man.
Right.
You know,
now, here's my question.
I guarantee you that, like, if you strive for something every day, once you attain it, you better have a pretty solid mental grasp or you don't have a reason to live anymore.
Right.
Like, listen to Tyson Fury. Like,
yeah,
that dude was
that's
like,
a story
he went
right
crazy
there.
and tried to kill himself because it's like, yeah, man. Champion of the world, you've accomplished it. Now what?
Yep.
You know, and it's like you have to have. Well, here's the thing: you have to be okay with like reality. You have to be okay with like who you are when the lights aren't on you. When you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're going home to your wife and kids. Like, hey, man, that's who you are. Like, you can be famous and all that jazz, but like when you're out partying and not being faithful and leaving people at home and stuff like that weighs on people. Like, I get some people are animals and it doesn't weigh on them, but I guarantee you that a lot of dudes, like the substances and not being able to control themselves the way that they're very disciplined people, but then they start letting loose. And some of these drugs out here are potent and powerful, and women are potent and powerful, and power and celebrity and people love you everywhere you go, but then you're like, wait a minute, that guy doesn't even know me. Like, everybody wants to be around me, but nobody really cares at all about me as a person. They just want to see me punch people, and now this douchebag in a bar is not going to take the drink from me. Okay. And then he punches someone. And it's like, well, you know, I know lots of guys in Ashland City that work that way, except they didn't make $1 million. You know, he's just under a lot of stress, and he reacted violently. I worked in prison for a long time, and yeah, people who are under a lot of stress and are violent people react violently when they're pressured. And if you're constantly under pressure, sometimes it can just be a straw that breaks the camel's back, like an old man that's like, "No, man, I don't want your drink." Except you've got a camera on you at all times. So,
Yeah, because he reached that
you just
level
ruined
of
your life.
superstardom.
Yeah.
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 Now here's my final question for you on all that, which I like that speech. That was good. But do you think that this is the fall of Conor, or do we see that he is like a true, hero and champion, and then he rises from the adversity, and then he ends up coming back and becoming champion again? Or is this just probably like he steps into the cage with Justin Gaethje and he gets knocked out in the first round, and then it's like the Ronda Rousey story?
That's not going to happen because Conor has more skills that are better rounded than Ronda Rousey did.
Yeah,
like
I agree with
it's
you.
It's not a matter of like people are telling Conor to go out there and try and wrestle Khabib next time. He's going to shoot, because that's the game plan similarity between Ronda Rousey's going to go out there against Amanda Nunes and stand. That's the dumbest thing you can do. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world? Like, who told you to? Oh yeah, that guy, that Armenian guy that like shouldn't be a boxing coach. The guy that wanted to fight the dude that armbarred Matt Hughes twice, Superman, Dennis Hallman.
Dennis Hallman.
Yeah. So Dennis Hallman was a coach for the other team on Ultimate Fighter for like Team Tate. Mm-hmm. And like Edmund kept like making crazy eyes at him, like just staring, mean mugging him, being obnoxious about it. And like Hallman's like, "Do you have a problem?" And Edmund's like, "Yeah, man, I got a problem. Why you keep looking at me?" And like, he's like, "I'm not looking at you. What are you doing?" He's like, we can fight. We can absolutely have a fight. And Dennis Hallman's like, "Okay, I guess we should go in here then." And like, well, there's a cage. Like, we can have a fight. Like, I'm going to kill you. There's no question in anyone's mind there that like Ronda Rousey's striking coach is about to die. And then Rousey goes and like gets in Hallman's face. It's like, "What's your problem, man?" And I'm like, wow, a girl is literally sticking up for you right now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a girl in between two men who's stopping one man from getting beaten unconscious the way that, nature should have it.
Right.
And that's why she winds up getting exposed and looking dumb and never fighting again, because she hitched her horse to that wagon and didn't clinch.
Yeah. Crazy. And so that is why my boxer that would transition well into the UFC would be Deontay Wilder.
That power.
Yeah.
I just feel like he could probably Ngannou.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Or he cuts to 205 and you put him up against Johnny Walker.
He can't make 205.
Yeah, he walks around at like 225, 220?
But do you see what 225 looks on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very lean 225er, but
that's absurd. Very lean. Yeah.
I'm going to hope for it. All right. And I'm a very casual boxing fan, by the way, so Wilder's one of the guys that I know. So the guys at Combat Sports are probably disappointed in me for that. But
I just want to see a pose down between Tyson Fury and Tim Sylvia. Two like 6'8" giants, just bodies melting candles.
Yeah. That would be a fun fight.
Yeah.
All right.
Ruiz is there for some reason.
he's the ring announcer for that one.
That does make me so happy. You don't understand how happy it makes me that Tyson Fury and Ruiz are both like considered to be the best. Like, they're the top of the mountain. Like, you look at those guys and you're like, yeah, man, I'd put a shirt on if I looked like that. Like, I wouldn't walk around without a shirt on. But it's like, yeah, man, that guy can kill anybody with his hands. Like, if they stand there and they're not allowed to shoot, he's going to win.
Yeah, and then when you had Cormier as the UFC heavyweight champion, you just had all the dad bods. Yeah.
Yeah. Functional strength.
Get some. So the MMA Pursuit actually had two questions. His second one is there a Bellator champion that could beat a UFC champion? And if so, who?
Could? Any of them could. I mean, like, it's MMA. But should? No.
Yeah.
No offense. Like, I watched Bellator, and I think that Ryan Bader's... Here's the thing. Like, Ryan Bader's good. I don't think he beats John Jones. I don't think he beats Stipe.
So you're not on Scott Coker's side of that argument, where he tweeted out that Ryan Bader's
Scott
the greatest
Coker needs to
heavyweight.
stop drinking, man. Like,
Yeah.
We listened to that Eric Anders interview.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who his fighters are, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Coker. I don't know why he tweeted that. So dumb.
I mean, just for the fact that we're talking about it right now, I think. I mean, it's just a big publicity thing. And then if they ever did a cross promotion, they'd make a lot of money off of it.
They're never going to do a cross promotion. That's impossible because of like TV stuff. Secondly, like it would be nothing but just them showing like the horrible, like almost like a, I don't even remember what it was, but it was kind of like a inverted like full Nelson that Jones got Bader in when they were both undefeated and they fought.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a babying, like a horrible grappling exchange. And
Right.
you would assume that Bader's best chance is in the grappling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he has nothing for John Jones. And like, okay, so you want to fight Stipe?
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to go well. Like, go watch Glover Teixeira blow his face off. Like, I don't think he beats anybody in the UFC that's got a belt. He beats plenty of guys in the UFC that don't have a belt. But
Yeah. I'm in full agreement with you on that. This next one is from Matt.B68. He just said, who is y'all's favorite fighters? So I
James
guess I'll...
Pulver,
Yeah,
Arrow
okay.
Parisian. Currently, Alessio Sakara is still fighting, so I'll say Alessio Sakara.
Nice. So my all-time favorite is probably Chuck the Iceman Liddell, because that was the fighter that got me into the sport. His and Randy's second match. Okay, so currently it's got to be your boy Eric Anders. I was a big fan of Conor McGregor during his thing, because I had briefly gotten out of watching the UFC for a couple years, and then McGregor versus Aldo was the fight where I got back into it. So that was really special to me, and I was like, hey, like this guy's, something else. I'm glad that I'm back into it. But obviously I kind of hate how everything's going right now for him. Just kind of going through the divisions. Okay, I like Robert Whitaker a lot. I've always liked GSP. My dad was a huge GSP fan. I like Cowboy. I like Gagey. Just kind of the guys that get in there and put on entertaining fights. That's my style. Entertaining strikers.
I would like to second your I like Justin Gagey comment.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of, from watching that season of Ultimate Fighter and from watching him get punched in the head. I'm like, yeah, man, I feel like he has a toughness that is he has a great chin, but he has a toughness that even in a sport of amazingly tough men, he probably possesses the highest level of toughness.
Diaz
See what I'm
versus
saying?
Gagey, who wins? 5-round fight.
Diaz probably chokes him unconscious.
Okay,
It
what
depends
about
on if
just
it goes to the if it doesn't go to
real-life
the
street
ground.
fight?
Diaz, because it goes to the ground, and he chokes him eventually. But like
Gotcha.
in an MMA context, man, I think that if he doesn't get him to the floor, he's not going to be able to walk. Like, I feel like he just keeps chopping that leg. Now, he did a real good job. Like, Nate did a real good job against Pettis. It's the first time we've ever seen him really be like, you're not going to chop my leg out from under me.
Yeah.
So,
That's a very good thing that he needed to add to his arsenal.
yes. Because instantly, I think about Justin Gagey kicking that leg, and it's like, ooh. You know who didn't want any of that? Edson Barbosa.
Mm-hmm.
So just wrap your head around that. Like, Edson didn't want to go trade leg kicks with that dude. So, yeah.
All right. The final question is from Malone is me on Instagram. He said, how did you guys score Holloway versus Edgar? So we've talked about this in the past, and we had a disagreement with it with the MMA marks whenever they came on. I thought that the fight was close. I had it 48-47 for Holloway, and I had it 2-2 going into the final round. And so I gave it to Max in that 5th round. So, I mean, I didn't think that it was like super close. I knew that Holloway should have came out with the victory. But I was also like, well, dang, like Frankie put up a pretty good fight. So I had it 3-2 for Max.
I felt like Frankie won the 3rd round, but I probably 49-46.
Gotcha. I had him edging out the first round.
Felt like Max won.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Max won. It wasn't. Yeah.
There wasn't any question that Max won. However, people who were like, "Oh, Frankie's going to get killed. Frankie's going to get beat down." No, man, that's not exactly what happened. It's very important to remember that Max Holloway is a special talent, and it's very important to remember that Max Holloway went 5 rounds with the guy at 10 pounds up, who hits like a train. So, like, yeah, Frankie's going to have to weather that. Like, Frankie's going to have to really overcome some things, and I feel like he almost did.
Yeah.
But, he didn't. He wasn't able to. So now we're going to have him fight Conor.
Do you think that fight's going to materialize?
Nope. I don't think it will. But for Frankie's sake, I'm completely cool with him fighting Conor just so he gets paid.
So he gets starched and paid?
So his grandkids will be like, yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah. All right. I guess that wraps this episode up. Ben, as always, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Take it easy. Peace.
Before I conclude, there was one listener question that I wanted to address, sent in from our friend Ashley, the MMA Nerd on Twitter, one of mine and Ben's favorite accounts on there. She said, is the title fight enough to have you excited for UFC Shenzhen or nah? Also, do you prefer these earlier cards or evening cards? Well, Ashley, I prefer any card that doesn't start at 3 a.m. my time, so I'm definitely going to pick the evening cards for that. Is the title fight enough to have me excited? Honestly, not really. I understand that it's a title fight, but it is in one of the more shallow divisions, I guess you could say. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be watching it live just because it'll be around probably like 7:30 or 8 my time. But, yeah, honestly, I'm excited for that co-main event with Capoeira dos Santos fighting. I really like him. So, yeah, overall, it's a pretty lackluster card, but I'm hoping for the best, and I hope that we get an exciting night of fights. Also, before I conclude, I want to give a special thank you to the guys over at Combat Sports 101. They've been giving us a shout out in their recent episodes at the beginning of the episode. I think that's really cool. I thank you guys so much for all the love that y'all show on Twitter, always retweeting our tweets, liking us, staying engaged with us. Ben and I both really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to the future collaboration with you guys, and I'm excited to see where our friendship goes. All right, guys, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting app, be sure to subscribe to the show. That way you don't miss any new content from us. And leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you never miss hearing from us. As always, you can follow us on social media at The Fight Addicts and follow mine and Ben's personal Twitter accounts at TFA_Seth and at TFA_Ben. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will see y'all next time.